Welcome to the Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where every cup tells a story, and every story starts with a sip. Join us on a journey of adventure, camaraderie, and of course, the finest brews, served hot and steeped in mystery. From dragons to ancient legends, we're brewing up more than just coffee. Today's tale begins at a once abandoned tavern, a crossroads of fate, and a discovery that could change everything. As our unlikely companions rebuild more than just walls, shadows stir, secrets unfold, and the true magic of Dungeon Brew Coffee begins to take shape. But before we dive into today's adventure, a quick word from our sponsor.
Love. A force as mighty as a warrior's sword and as unpredictable as a rogue's dice roll. But if there's one thing you can count on, it's that a fine cup of coffee can warm the heart, steady the hands, and make even the most fearsome of adventurers swoon. And where better to find such a brew than at Dungeon Brew Coffee?
Nothing says love like a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. Whether it's a gift for your beloved or a treat for yourself, because self-love is epic, Dungeon Brew has the perfect blend for you.
Spice up your Valentine's Day with a dash of Dragon's Breath. Our Jalapeno Inferno hot sauce pairs perfectly with breakfast, lunch, or even a late-night snack by candlelight.
And don't forget, a warm drink shared is a memory made. Whether it's a first date, an anniversary, or just a quiet moment by the fire, Dungeon Brew Coffee brings hearts together.
The threads of fate weave many tales, some of grand love, others of quiet devotion. No matter the story, each moment is best savored with warmth in hand and kindred spirits nearby. This Valentine's Day, let the aroma of Dungeon Brew Coffee guide you to the connections that truly matter.
Dungeon Brew Coffee, because every great love story starts with a great cup of coffee.
Find your next favorite brew at dungeonbrewcoffee.com and share the love. Now, grab your mug, settle in, and get ready for the next chapter in our brewing saga. Episode 7, Building a Legacy. The tavern, though far from finished, had begun to hum with the energy of those who worked to breathe life into it. The wood of the walls and beams creaked under the efforts of Braticus Aurelius, who, hammer in hand, guided the structure's steady transformation. His eyes narrowed in concentration as he tightened the final nail into a beam, his beard swaying with each purposeful movement. He stepped back to inspect his work and gave a nod of approval.
Almost there.
On the other side of the room, Nyved crouched before the fire pit, his golden red scales shimmering in the glow of the flickering flames. His tiny claws adjusted the stones, ensuring the fire would burn just right, not too hot to scorch but warm enough to cook meals for many. His nostrils flared as he tested the heat, pleased with the results. Patches had already ventured outside to the small garden near the tavern. There, she bent low to the ground, pulling small clumps of dirt from the earth to make way for the herbs she'd gathered. Lavender, rosemary, thyme, each planted with care, her fingers brushing the soil as she worked. Healing was in her nature, and it wasn't just the body she nurtured with her touch. The kitchen, meanwhile, had caught Java's attention. The young black dragon had spent the past few hours there, carefully cleaning away the layers of dust and debris. His tail flicked with excitement as he pawed through the cabinets, finding old tools and utensils. A small oven stood in the corner, and Java purred as he took a closer look at the cracked stone. It would need work, but he could fix it. A kitchen like this could create something extraordinary, perhaps even more magical than the tavern itself.
Java. How's the kitchen coming along?
It's more than just a kitchen, it's a place where magic happens. Wait until you see what I make of it.
Just promise you won't burn the place down, would you?
While the others worked, Fate Scold, the quiet mystic of the group, had mysteriously disappeared. She had been with them in the early morning, but now, she was nowhere to be found. Patches had noticed her absence first, but didn't say anything, knowing better than to ask too many questions of Fate when she chose to take her leave. It wasn't unusual for the Norn to wander off on her own errands. Her visions often took her to places beyond their understanding, even when the others were busy. As evening descended, the work slowed. The tavern was coming to life, and they were beginning to feel the weight of its potential. With the fire crackling, the scent of herbs rising, and the promise of food to come, it was becoming home. Patches stood at the window, gazing out toward the horizon, her thoughts distant. The map, still tucked safely away in a hidden corner, was a reminder of their next step. There was more to be done, more to explore. But for now, this was their moment.
We'll be ready soon. Everything's falling into place.
Just a few more days, and we'll have a roof over our heads that doesn't leak.
I think it's already starting to feel like a real home.
It'll be even better once the food starts rolling out. I'm thinking that stew from the journal will be just right. And pastries. Lots of pastries.
Where's Fate? She's been quiet today.
I think she's off on one of her errands. She has her ways. She'll turn up when she's ready.
The sun hung low in the sky as the group returned to work steadily on their individual tasks, the golden hour casting a warm glow over the half-repaired tavern. Java reorganized the kitchen, occasionally stealing glances at Nyved's growing fire pit, while Patches hummed softly in the herb garden. Braticus, balancing atop a ladder, hammered the last nails into a sturdy crossbeam. It was peaceful, too peaceful. The tranquility shattered with a deep rumble that seemed to come from the earth itself. Everyone froze. Java's ears perked up, his claws clutching the edge of a counter. Braticus stopped mid-swing with his hammer, his sharp gaze shifting to the tree-lean. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, knocking a bucket of nails from Braticus' workbench. Dust shook free from the beams he had just secured. Java darted toward the others, his wings twitching nervously.
It's coming from the woods. Something's moving. Something big.
What is that?
I don't like it.
Something this strange near our tavern we're trying to rebuild? Seems strange things are becoming our norm, don't you think?
All eyes turned toward the tree-lean, where the shadows seemed to deepen unnaturally. A strange glow flickered in the underbrush, faint at first, then brighter, like fireflies gathering en masse. It twisted and pulsed unnaturally as it inched closer to the clearing. The light stilled, hovering just beyond the clearing. Then, without warning, a gust of wind blew past, carrying the scent of old parchment and something metallic. The glow flickered and then, with an audible snap, vanished entirely. The group stood frozen for a moment, their breath held, as if waiting for the woods to respond.
Wait, did anyone else hear that?
Hear what?
Something fell.
Java's nose twitched as he padded toward the edge of the clearing. Sure enough, nestled among the grass and pine needles, lay an unfamiliar object. Braticus crouched beside Java, brushing debris aside. It was a small, weathered satchel, its leather straps cracked and aged. He opened it cautiously, revealing what appeared to be an old, brittle page covered in symbols. The symbols shimmered faintly, as if reacting to unseen forces.
It's more writing that we can't read. Same style as the map.
The map's inside. Do you think it'll react?
It's not just writing. Look, this diagram looks like the tavern.
And the crossroads.
Well, whatever this is, it came to us. Let's get it inside and figure it out before the next mystery drops itself at our feet.
You've done well. But you'll need to move quickly soon. The map's final clue, it's more than just a direction. It's a call. You'll need to be ready.
We'll be ready.
The legacy is yours to build, but it will be tested. The journey isn't just about finding treasure. It's about what you do with the knowledge you gain.
After several minutes of looking at the papers with no additional information, they returned to their tasks. Time moved onward and night drew close. The steady crackle of the flames was interrupted only by the occasional shift of wind through the forest. Nyved, with his warm cider in hand, leaned back, his bright blue eyes reflecting the flickering light. Java sat at a nearby table, his tail flicking with an unusual energy as he looked over his map. Patches, tending to her herbs near the hearth, looked up from her work and noticed the map once again shimmering faintly from the wooden table where it lay. Java's eyes followed the subtle glows of the map, his brow furrowing. The way the lines seemed to move, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive, was always unsettling. It had been like this from the moment he'd first discovered it in those ancient ruins, but as the journey progressed, its behavior only grew stranger. He leaned in closer, tracing one of the glowing lines with his claws, watching as it slowly transformed into something entirely new. Nyved took a long sip of cider, eyes narrowing in thought. He hadn't mentioned it aloud, but the map had been pulling at his curiosity too. It had been an invaluable guide so far, but it wasn't like anything he had ever seen. Sometimes, it felt as though the map was more of a puzzle than a map at all. He didn't quite trust it.
I swear, it's like it's alive sometimes.
You think it's trying to tell us something? Or just playing with us?
I don't know. It's not like the maps ever made sense right away. We can't just take it at face value. But I feel like every time we get closer to something important, it shifts. It's like it's adapting to us.
I think it knows more than we do. It's like it's guiding us, but I don't know why it chose us.
That's what bothers me. It's too purposeful. But at the same time, it's never clear, only just enough to keep us going. It makes as much sense as fate does.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe it's meant to keep us moving forward even when we don't understand. We need to stay open to it, but not blindly.
What do we do if it stops showing us the way? If it just fades?
No. It can't. It won't. We have to keep going. There's always something more to uncover.
And when we find the temple, what do you think will be waiting for us?
The question hung in the air. No one had any clear answers. They had been guided by the map's strange, shifting nature, but what lay ahead was still cloaked in uncertainty. The temple, the clues, and whatever awaited them beyond, it was as if the universe was teasing them, just out of reach. For now, they would follow where the map led, even if it meant moving forward with more questions than certainty. The shifts in the map had become part of their journey, something they had learned to embrace, even if it only fueled their curiosity further. Braticus had been working on the structure of the tavern, overseeing the repairs, and ensuring everything was being built with the care it deserved. As the others gathered around the fire, he listened from his position outside, his broad frame casting a long shadow under the moonlight as he hammered a beam into place. His movements were methodical, deliberate, and yet there was something restless about his posture. The steady rhythm of his work seemed to match the rising tension in the air, as though his mind was wrestling with the same questions as the others. He had been silent about the map, not because he didn't have his thoughts on it, but because there was something about its shifting nature that unsettled him. Braticus wasn't one to dwell on the unknown, preferring instead to focus on tangible work. But when the map had changed once more earlier that day, he had felt that familiar pang of doubt creeping in. His hands had paused on the beam, just for a moment, before he continued his task with renewed focus, drawing strength from his teachings at the monasteries. After a few moments, he placed the hammer down gently on a nearby workbench and walked over to join his companions. His heavy boots made a soft thud on the floor as he approached, his presence undeniable. He didn't sit immediately but instead stood beside Patches, eyeing the map with quiet scrutiny.
I don't know about any of this magic stuff. But I do know one thing, we've made it this far. And whatever that map's leading us to, I trust it'll show us the way when we need it most. Whatever this legacy is, it's bigger than us. But I'll tell you one thing, I'll be there to help build it, piece by piece, even if the road ahead is still a mystery.
His words, though simple, carried weight. It was Braticus' way of showing that while the unknowns about the map and their journey might unsettle others, he would continue to build and fight for the future ahead, whatever it held. His quiet resolve was something the others could lean on, even when the answers weren't clear. With a final glance at the map, Braticus returned to his task, knowing that as long as they all kept moving forward, they would find what they were meant to build together. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled in the clear night sky, they knew one thing for sure, the map was far from finished with them. The morning light filtered through the thick canopy of trees, casting dappled shadows over the clearing where the group had begun reviving the abandoned tavern nestled against the trees at the crossroads. The sound of hammering and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The foundation was set, the walls standing strong, and the first few beams of the roof were in place. It was coming together, slowly, but surely. Java, his black scales gleaming under the sun, sat on the tavern's porch, a steaming mug of coffee in his small paws. He had been helping with the repairs when he wasn't tending to his coffee beans. Nearby, Nyved adjusted the seating outside, using his fiery breath to heat a bent iron rod back into shape. His bright blue eyes glinted with focus, making sure everything was comfortable and sturdy. Patches, the calico healer catfolk, surveyed the scene with a smile. She stood back a short distance from the tavern, her paws on her hips, her bright green eyes scanning the work. Fate's Skuld was perched on a mossy stone near the fire pit, her dark cloak rustling in the breeze. The Norn mystic's piercing blue eyes were locked on the horizon, as if she were waiting for something. Braticus worked steadily on securing a section of new roof to a beam he had replaced.
It's coming together nicely.
Something's coming.
Before anyone could reply, a faint sound broke the silence, a distant crunching of underbrush, a series of footsteps approaching. All eyes turned as a group of figures emerged from the tree line. 5 figures, cloaked and hooded, their footsteps heavy but deliberate, approached with a purpose that immediately set the group on edge. The leader of the approaching group, a tall man with a scar tracing his jaw down the left side of his face, stepped forward. His eyes, dark and calculating, took in the group before settling on the half-built tavern. Braticus stopped his work and moved to place himself between these intruders and his companions, his towering frame a solid presence against the quiet tension. He rested his hand on the hilt of his sword. His voice remained casual, but his eyes were sharp.
Well, well, well. It seems the rumors were true.
What rumors? You've heard of this place?
Of course. Stories travel far and wide. Especially when there's a treasure hidden beneath it. That's why we're here.
What treasure?
Treasure? We don't have any treasure.
Don't play coy, little one. No one fixes up a dump like this for nothing.
Leave now and you won't regret it.
Save it. You expect me to believe you came out here for a patch of dirt and some half-rotted wood? I suggest you hand over whatever you're protecting, or we'll have to take it by force.
I don't think you understand what you're dealing with.
We'll see. Take them.
The tension snapped like a bowstring. The rogues drew their weapons, their eyes wild with greed. The team wasn't just up against a fight, they were up against a group of people who believed they were entitled to whatever lay within the tavern's walls. The battle erupted immediately. Braticus surged forward, moving like a storm. His sword flashed in the sun as he swept through the rogues with a combination of grace and power that left no room for hesitation. Each swing was deliberate, each strike filled with the experience of a seasoned warrior. His blade flashed in the sunlight as he met the rogues head-on. The clash of steel echoed across the clearing. But despite his strength, the rogues were skilled. To his left, Java launched himself from the porch at another rogue, claws flashing as he pounced. A burst of scorching breath sent the attacker scrambling, his weapon clattering to the ground. Nyved moved swiftly, darted into the fray. His wings spread wide as he unleashed a searing blast of fire, scorching the ground beneath the rogues, and blinding one of the attackers who stumbled into a tree. Patches, her keen healing instincts in full gear, darted between her companions, her paws outstretched as she murmured soothing words and worked her magic. Her healing magic a steady force, she placed a paw on Braticus' shoulder, a soft glow mending the fresh gash on his arm. The battle raged on for what seemed like hours, each blow striking with the force of desperation. The rogues were relentless, but the group was more than prepared. Together, they fought as one, each person playing their part in the dance of combat. Braticus' strength, Patch's healing touch, Fate's Skuld's mystic insight, and Java's fiery determination all blended seamlessly in the heat of the battle. Meanwhile, Fate's Skuld stood at the outskirts of the fray, her eyes glowing with mystic power. She raised her hand, her fingers weaving intricate patterns in the air as if she were weaving a spell in the wind. She whispered an incantation and a shimmering light encircled the rogue leader. The light warped, confusing his senses, clouding his thoughts. He stumbled back, momentarily disoriented.
No!
The tide of the battle shifted. Braticus disarmed the leader with a deft strike, sending the man's blade spinning to the ground. Java and Nyved flanked the remaining rogues, their combined presence too intimidating to challenge further, babies or not. Breathing hard, the rogue leader knelt to the ground, his scarred face twisted with frustration, his head shaking in a vain attempt to clear it. His companions, battered and beaten, and singed, stood behind him with their hands raised slightly in surrender.
Take your people and go. And don't come back.
The leader's scarred face twisted in anger, but he gave a curt nod. Rising unsteadily to his feet, he motioned for his group to retreat, his glare burning into the group as they stumbled back into the forest. Patches brushed dust from her fur, her green eyes narrowing as she watched the rogues disappear. Fate stepped closer to the others, as did Nyved. Java went to gather his coffee mug before making his way back to the group. Braticus sheathed his sword.
Good riddance.
That won't be the last of them. They'll return or others like them.
Aye. Let them try again. We'll be waiting.
You're welcome for the magical assists, by the way.
I was just about to say thank you. We all fought well as a team.
The group turned to the tavern, its sturdy silhouette bathed in the warm afternoon light. Though it still bore the scars of time, it now stood as more than just a building. It was becoming a symbol of what they were creating together, a home, a refuge, and a legacy. Before they could fully relax, the faint sound of voices carried from the edge of the clearing. Braticus straightened, his hand instinctively brushing the hilt of his sword. The group turned toward the approaching figures, cautious but curious. A small group of villagers approached, their steps hesitant yet friendly. At the front was an older man with a thick gray beard, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. Behind him, a woman carried a basket brimming with freshly baked bread, and 2 children peeked shyly from behind her skirts, and 2 younger men trailed behind, tools slung over their shoulders.
Morning. We heard some ruckus while working the field and thought we'd check in. Looks like you've had your hands full.
Just dealing with some unwanted visitors. All sorted now.
We brought some bread. Thought it might be a nice welcome to the neighborhood.
Smells delightful.
Dragons. Indeed, and we happen to be excellent company.
As the villagers lingered, chatting and offering their support, the group felt a renewed sense of community. The younger men with tools exchanged glances before stepping closer to the tavern, their curious eyes darting between the group and the partially repaired building. The stockier of the two, with sun-weathered skin and a mop of sandy brown hair, gave a friendly grin. The taller, leaner man at his side adjusted the strap of his tool belt, his eyes scanning the roofline with a practiced and knowing gaze.
The name's Harlan. This place has been part of the landscape longer than anyone can remember. We could lend a hand with the repairs, if you'll have us. Be ashamed not to help bring it back to life. This is my brother, Willem. He's got an eye for woodwork. He'd be able to help with the framing and finer details.
The beam's there, they'll hold for now, but the northwest corner's sagging. Needs reinforcement if you don't want trouble come the next storm.
You know your craft. And your help would be welcome. This tavern is more than just walls and a roof, it's part of something greater we're building here.
More than just a tavern, huh? Well, if you're looking to make this a proper gathering place again, you'll need more than sturdy beams. You'll need trust.
Trust starts with gestures like yours. Offering your skills to people you just met says a lot about your character.
Well, we weren't about to let some scoundrels run you off. Besides, this place could do a lot for the village if it gets back on its feet.
You've got a good start.
You've got sharp eyes, lad. Stick around, and you might teach me a thing or two about keeping this place standing.
Happy to help. Honestly, it's been a while since we had a reason to work on something like this. Feels good.
You'll find these 2 never sit still for long. Always tinkering, always fixing. They've got the hands and hearts for it.
Then it seems the tavern has already begun weaving its thread into the fabric of this village. Help from neighbors strengthens more than walls, it strengthens purpose.
Guess we're all part of the tapestry now, huh?
You could say that. Just don't be surprised when a tapestry gets fiery embellishments.
And a robust aroma of coffee, of course.
We'll head back to gather supplies and tools. I've got some extra wood that might come in handy.
And nails. Plenty of nails.
Your kindness won't be forgotten. Thank you truly.
We'll be back before sundown. Don't get too far ahead without us.
No promises, but we'll leave you something to do.
As the villagers departed down the road, the team exchanged glances, a shared sense of hope settling over them. The day's challenges had tested them, but the growing support of the community bolstered their resolve. Together, they return to their work, the rhythmic sound of tools and laughter filling the clearing as the tavern's future continued to take shape. The fire is low, the mugs are empty, and tonight's tale has come to an end. But the journey is far from over. Thank you for gathering with us at Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where adventure brews with every sip. Join us next time as new challenges arise, mysteries deepen, and the magic of the tavern unfolds. If you enjoyed this taste of adventure, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. We'll save a seat for you at the tavern. See you soon.